GrandPad founder Scott Lien is talking with us today about GrandPad's best features and how it keeps senior adults from being isolated. You're connected with the Heart of Hospice. I'm Jerry Fenter here with Helen Bauer.
Whether you're a family caregiver or an end-of-life professional, we're here to enhance your hospice experience by connecting you with information you can use about end-of-life care.
Today's episode is sponsored by our friends at GrandPad. Do you have an older family member who's isolated, or do you feel disconnected from a senior loved one who lives at a distance? The folks at GrandPad have come up with the perfect solution, an easy-to-use device that connects older adults with family and friends using video chat, email, photo sharing, and more. Visit grandpad.net for details. We are so happy to have Scott Lien back on the program again.
I know.
Yeah, and he has some news for us about new things that have been added to the GrandPad platform, and you have a story to tell as well.
Of course. I'm a rabid user of GrandPad with my mom.
Right.
It's so much fun.
So some of these new features are the ones that you've been able to use with your mom.
Yes. So let's introduce Scott. Scott Lien is GrandPad's Chief Executive Officer, leading the company as it builds a platform that empowers seniors of all ages and technological skills to connect with family, friends, and caregivers. With the GrandPad team, he strives to create a world where no seniors are lonely or isolated.
Isolation has really become a major issue. So even before the pandemic, isolation for seniors was an issue.
Yes.
It created a problem. And one of the things that Scott talks with us about in this interview is the mental health perspective when it comes to using technology to help connect people. And that's what GrandPad really does so well, is it's able to connect people who may feel isolated or lonely or just alone, and how much it improves their mental health because now they're able to connect with family. They're able to find out what's going on with family. They're able to see pictures of their grandkids and great-grandkids and maybe even great-great-grandkids. We don't know. And all that connection really improves their mental health because they don't feel so disconnected and so isolated from their family.
And one of the newest features they have came out last year, in May of 2021. So it's been since we talked to Scott and his son, Isaac, who also works with the GrandPad team. They have a feature called Moods. And with the Moods app inside GrandPad, users can find relaxation and comfort. There's audiovisual scenery, and it's to improve mood and promote relaxation. So that's a boost to overall mental health.
Absolutely. It is. So one of the other features that, wait. We need to let Scott tell all about what's happening. We're going to tell it all.
Way ahead of ourselves, as usual.
We have, but we're excited about this. And we really are excited because we know the benefit that can come from people using GrandPad and the features that they have. So let's get on with it. Here's our conversation with Scott Lien from GrandPad. Scott, we are so happy to have you back on the Heart of Hospice podcast.
Great. Thanks for having me here.
So, Scott, you're the CEO of GrandPad, and we have talked about GrandPad and have sung your praises for many years now. So grateful for what GrandPad is doing. So tell us more about some of the new features of GrandPad, how the GrandPad team has really developed some customized applications for the older adults.
Yeah, so as we've talked about before, we're extremely customer driven, and we listen to our three main constituents: the seniors. We focus on super seniors, those over the age of 75. Our average age of our users is 84, and our oldest ever so far was 116. That's one key constituent. The second is what we call the companions, the family and friends, the adult children, grandkids, great-grandkids, great-great-grandkids of the seniors. And they use our free companion app on their iPhone or iPad, Android phone. The seniors, of course, use our tablet. And then the caregivers, and those might be family members or neighbors, or it might be professional paid caregivers, home care, home health, hospice, medical clinicians, doctors, nurses. So we're always listening to those three constituents, engaging with them to improve the product. We're an 8-year-old company. We've reached more than 1.4 million people, seniors, families, and caregivers in 120 countries. And so that's enabled us to get a lot of great feedback. One of the other key parts of that is we employ a group of folks called our Grand Advisors. These are all super seniors. They're all currently in their 80s, 90s. One of them is just turned 100. And they're a group of 10 super seniors that really are the designers who build the product or design the product. We are the hands that builds the product that they want, our software engineers and designers. And so we're constantly meeting with them, and they're giving us the guidance and feedback. So with that backdrop, some of the new things that we've heard from these constituents, number one is more games and multiplayer games that really bring the family together. So we'll soon be rolling out a series of really neat multiplayer games. One of them is a game that I always played with my grandpa when he was in his 80s and I was just 5 years old. We always played checkers together.
Right.
And now you'll be able to play checkers, seniors, family, grandkids, great grandkids, in a very fun and engaging way on GrandPad. And we're doing it in such a way that it's not only entertaining and fun, but it creates that bond and connection, creates communication between family members. Because, when I was a kid, I wasn't just playing checkers with my grandpa. He was teaching me things and, helping me learn strategy and helping me, think several moves ahead. So it was a learning experience. So that's really what we're aiming for, is creating family connection and communication with a whole series of new multiplayer games. We have a whole bunch of games today. We're just really extending that and enriching those. Second is more capabilities in video calling. We've had from day one built-in one-to-one video calling on GrandPad. It's the easiest, simplest way to video call, in that we've added a number of neat features where if you want, with the right consents, you can record the video call. We call it capture the memory. So I'm really lucky. I have 6 years of video calls with my mom. And sadly, my mom is gone now, but I can go back to all those conversations because we'd video call each other all the time. We lived 3,000 miles apart, and she would always tell me some story about when I was a kid. So capture the memory video calls. Those can also be used in a clinical sense as doctors, nurses do telehealth. They can record that video call and make that part of the medical record, or it could be used for various, quality monitoring purposes in a healthcare setting. We also have a feature in video calls called real-time texting or captioning. So more than 50% of this age group has significant hearing loss. So you can put the words right on the screen. So, hey, Mom, I'm going to be at your house at noon today. Oh, okay, noon today. I can see it. I can hear it. So we're always really enriching the video capabilities. We, a couple of years ago, added full support of Zoom, and it's really simplified Zoom. It is Zoom, so it's got all the great capabilities of Zoom. You can have the whole family. We've had families have 100 people on to sing, happy birthday for Mom's 90th birthday party. We're doing Zoom webinars now, so you can have seniors can join a webinar, and it might be an educational thing like learning how to crochet, or it might be a fun, entertaining thing like we're doing virtual trips where the seniors are all on their GrandPad in a Zoom webinar. We have a tour guide in Europe, live tour guide showing you around Lisbon, Portugal was one that we recently did. So some really cool things leveraging video. A couple more. We've also really focused on various tools to help with mental health and relaxation and meditation. And an app that we rolled out not too long ago and we're continuing to extend it is called the Moods app. And it's basically a tool with some really beautiful videos and calming music that people listen to relax, to calm themselves, to meditate. to reduce anxiety. And then last but not least is more than half of our business is with enterprise healthcare companies of all different flavors, home care companies, hospice companies. One big segment that we work with a lot is the PACE segment, Program of All-Inclusive Care of the Elderly. We work with dozens and dozens of the big PACE providers across the country. And we love working with them because they're focused on working with people the industry calls dual eligible, low income people with high healthcare needs. Sadly, these are people that would oftentimes fall through the cracks and be underserved. And so we're working with the PACE organizations and the National PACE Association and adding all kinds of new capabilities to serve that segment. So that's just a taste of some of the things we've been working on.
All I can say is, wow. That's incredible. You know, what I see with what you are doing at GrandPad is that you're helping people who oftentimes are alone. You know, the pandemic has really created a lot of isolation anyway, because people were told to isolate. And that created a lot of mental health challenges. But then you have a generation of people, a demographic of people who are typically living alone anyway. And then you tell them to isolate themselves, and it just gets worse, where GrandPad is able to help them still engage with family and friends. Do you have any thoughts about the mental health advantages of GrandPad?
Yeah, connecting families and creating rich communication has always been at the heart of what we've wanted to do with GrandPad. Mm-hmm. We started the company, my son and I, because we were 3,000 away from my mother, my son's grandmother. And my mom, like most folks in her 80s, she was really frustrated with technology. She's a brilliant lady, ran her own business, but she was just frustrated by it. It frustrated her to the point where it eroded her self-confidence. Why can't I do it? And like many of that age group, as I mentioned, she suffered from significant hearing loss. So she was getting more and more isolated because she could not communicate with her family. She couldn't talk on the phone. She couldn't hear. And she couldn't do video calls on a computer because it was of the technology barriers. So by creating GrandPad and enabling an easy, rich way, and by rich meaning I can see you, I can hear you. If I have hearing issues, we can put the words on the screen. Because if you can't communicate and share information, right? I mean, that's not communication. So right. Just frustration. And so that rich communication is at the center of what we do. And it's through video calls. It's through sharing of photos. Oh, hey, Mom, I sent you a little video of grandson Isaac winning the football game last night. Here it is. And now we're going to do a video call and talk about it. That's really sharing. That we all know, and there's lots of validated research that the terrible physical and cognitive effects of loneliness and isolation are catastrophic. It's being chronically lonely is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Wow. That's not a number I made up. That's a validated medical research study that you can go read. And it has all the negative physical healthcare effects of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. We can eliminate or greatly reduce that loneliness and isolation simply by bringing people together and creating rich dialogue. You know, if you connect two lonely people and they're really connecting, now neither one of them is lonely. So that's at the heart of what we do. And then you wrap that by this multi-generational communication, right? I'm in the camp, sadly, in the US, I think I'm in the minority, but in other cultures around the world and original, like Native American cultures, elders were held in the highest esteem. They were known to be the wise elders. And when there was big decisions that were needed to be made, you went to the elders. Sadly, our culture has gotten away from that. And we're trying to make that come back again and put the seniors at the center so that their wisdom, their advice, their comfort, their guidance can enrich the whole family of all generations. And we know, sadly, there's a lot of high school and college kids that are struggling with mental health issues, right? And grandma and grandpa can be a great source of wisdom, guidance, mentoring for them. And GrandPad can allow that connection, irregardless of geography. So that's absolutely at the heart of what we're doing.
So I have talked about my mom and her GrandPad for several years now. So since we last talked to you, my mom has had some changes in her life. Her mentation is starting to change. She'll be 90 at the end of the year. And she lives in a senior living community. When they closed the community down, when the pandemic started, she was truly isolated in her apartment. And the GrandPad was such a huge help. So I have taught her now how to access her email and to do a Zoom call through her email. So yesterday, I had a Zoom call with my 89-year-old mom. It was her first one to do by herself. She was so proud of herself. But as a surprise, I got my daughter and her son. So that was my mom's great-grandson. And then my brother, his wife, and their son. So we had all these generations there together, and my mother thought that was the neatest thing ever. And I told her, I said, I'm so proud of you that you are learning to do something at 89. And I think it has a lot to do with her mental health. We know that isolation and loneliness really affect mind, body, and spirit, right? For any human being. But the depression that comes along with that isolation and that loneliness, I think it gets overlooked with seniors. Right. It's something we see a lot in serious illness and in hospice and end-of-life care. But to enable someone to connect in, it's just an amazing thing to do. You wouldn't think that a Zoom meeting, because how many Zoom meetings have we all had in the last 2 years?
Sure.
Yeah. But here's the difference for this age group. So they're not sitting in business meetings doing Zoom all day, sadly, and most of them are sitting home or in a care facility all alone, and they are waiting for the phone to ring. And that's why seniors are they're preyed upon by the bad guys, because they answer the phone and they love to talk to someone. So right. They're never tired of Zoom. Plus, there's also kind of this magic factor that's happening. Like, I don't know how this works, but it's really cool. The fact that I can see my great-grandson across the country. So, thanks for sharing that story with me. That's why we do this, and it makes me feel really good to hear that. And I'll just tell you one related story. We had a family that got GrandPad for two brothers. One was 90. He lived in Los Angeles. The other was 92, who lived in New York. They were like brothers, very close all their life. But it was about age 85, due to their age, they were no longer able to travel. So they called each other every day, multiple times a day, chatted about what was going on in New York and LA, but they'd resigned themselves to the fact that they were never going to see each other again, that they were going to die and never see their brother again. They got GrandPad, their first video call between the two brothers, and they could see each other again, just how emotional that was. And then they were able to do video calls every day. And so, bridging that gap and doing it in a way, you hit on a really important point. It's got to be simple, because if it's complicated, all of us, when we get frustrated with technology, we'll be like, Apple, Microsoft, whoever, why did you make it so hard? But with this age group, when they run into stumbling blocks and get frustrated with technology, they think it's them. They think it's their fault. Right. And it erodes their self-confidence, and it causes them to withdraw more. And they see the world. I've heard things like, yep, the world's passing me by. I don't have anything to offer. I can't use my smartphone anymore. I can't remember passwords. I'm useless. You hear people, right. And they just make that because they have an infinite amount of wisdom and things that they can contribute to society. It's technology has created this barrier. So one of our little sayings is, quoting Leonardo da Vinci, simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication. Doing a video call shouldn't be complicated. And we've just focused by listening to this age group and having them help us design it. A lot of times they'll just say, well, why don't you just do it this way? And we're like, oh, wow, brilliant.
Right.
And don't overcomplicate it. Don't design it. Don't design a product for a 30-year-old that's going to be used by someone who's 90. if you want a 90-year-old to use it, have a 90-year-old design it. And that's what we do.
You know, my mom's memory is such an issue for her, and she's aware of it. She doesn't have Alzheimer's, right? Her physician is aware, and they've tried different medications with no clear benefits to her. So we didn't want to try to talk her into something that was only going to make her think, my memory really is bad. I can't manage simple tasks that everybody else seems to be able to manage. And we didn't want her to miss out because, you know, we have text threads where if the babies are doing something funny, everybody gets a picture or a video, right? And we all give the feedback. But my mom was always being left out of that loop. So putting them into the GrandPad, then she and I talk about that the next time. And we haven't done the recording thing yet. But I love the idea that my grandsons, who are 9 months and 4 months old, when they are 10, when they're 18, when they're 20, they can go back into those recordings and see, you know, here's Margie. She talked with me and she was part of my life. And this is who she was and how she acted and the crazy things that she said. And I just think that would be such an incredible legacy. There's so much value to preserving that with respect. I love it that GrandPad has that feature.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more. And that's what we're going to continue to extend those capabilities and continue to, you know, put the seniors at the center, connect that circle of care in a simple, engaging, and safe way. That's key. Sadly, you know, since we talked last, the amount of the scams and attacks against seniors has only escalated. It just keeps escalating. And sadly, the bad guys have taken advantage of the fact that many seniors were locked down during COVID. And they're, you know, because I've heard lots of stories of, you know, normally, you know, a senior might get a phone call or they might get a letter in the mail or, you know, an email if they were on a standard, you know, computer. And they would say, well, I'm going to show this to my son when he comes and visits me on Saturday, you know, if I'm in a care facility. Well, now the son can't come because they've been locked down. And they go, well, I guess I'll just respond to that. And now they get sucked into the scam. And so that's really a key feature of GrandPad. We call it the circle of trust. Only people that are invited in, as you pointed out, like in your family, your brother is the family administrator, and you can have multiple family administrators, but they're the gatekeepers that decide who are we going to allow to connect to our family, who are we going to allow to connect with grandma and grandpa and the young children in the family. And unless you're invited in, you cannot send emails, you can't phone call, can't video call, can't share pictures.
Right.
Sadly, all social media, everything's shared public, and all of a sudden some bad guy is now using photos that were posted innocently. One of the most common scams is the, you know, I call it the, hey, grandma, I'm in jail scam. And this has happened to dozens of families that we've heard about directly. So using social engineering on Facebook, the bad guys see, hey, granddaughter Julie is in New York touring around. He can see her posting pictures at the, you know, Statue of Liberty. They use Facebook to find out who Julie's grandmother is. They call Grandma Sally and go, hey, grandma, this is Julie. As you know, I'm in New York touring, you know, and, but, you know, my friend got drunk and got a DUI and we're in jail. And, you know, I just need you to send me $2,000, you know, don't tell mom, you know, this is just between you and I, grandma, because we're close. This scam happens all the time, and it's enabled by social media and standard technology. We've created a walled garden so those kind of things can't happen.
Yeah. That exact same thing, that exact event happened to my mother. Very sad.
That's one of the great things about GrandPad is that it is a safe zone. It really is. And so good that it is.
Today's episode is sponsored by the team at GrandPad. They recognize that older people can be intimidated by technology. GrandPad is created to be easy to set up and effortless to use. The device allows for email, games, music, and photo and video sharing. The video chat feature came in so handy when my family couldn't visit my mom during the pandemic. She loved seeing photos of her grandkids and great-granddaughter. My brother acts as administrator for my mom's GrandPad. When he has a question, GrandPad customer service is quick and easy to understand. My brother was even able to give my mom instructions that she could follow over the phone. GrandPad comes with 4G LTE cellular service already included, so there's no need for Wi-Fi. Creating a family network is as simple as sending an email. When I got the email, I just downloaded the app and signed in. As part of her private network, I can share my photos and see what other members of the network are sharing. At 88 years old, my mom sent her first email. She was so proud of herself and excited to learn to manage technology. GrandPad keeps my mom connected with our family and can keep you connected to your family too. You can find more details at grandpad.net. Now back to today's episode.
So have you seen over the past couple of years that GrandPad is being utilized more because of some of the additions to your offerings?
Yeah, absolutely. The number of users that we serve continues to grow, and the usage continues to grow, and that engagement, and that's what we want. We want it to be, of course, we want face to face. So our ideal situation is, maybe the family and the kids and the grandkids are kind of busy with their life, but they use GrandPad, and all of a sudden they start communicating more as a family. And all of a sudden, the grandson says, Grandpa, he's a pretty cool guy. Maybe I'm going to go visit him, and then Grandpa says, I really like fishing, maybe. And then Grandpa takes grandson fishing. And so you can, everybody's busy and people live far apart, but it can be a tool to bring people together. So we continue to see usage grow, and we're continuing to look for new ways that can be used as a tool to help families, both in our direct to consumer business and then in the other 50% in this healthcare sense. And I guess I'd like to talk about that for a minute. As we all know, the healthcare sector is just really struggling because there's such a shortage of labor. There's not enough doctors, nurses, and caregivers.
Right.
There's just not enough to go around, right? And some of that's caused by COVID and the economy, but a lot of it's just demographics, right? There's now far more people over the age of 65 than under the age of 30, right? So just the demographic shifts. So you've got to use the precious caregivers in a most efficient way. I happen to live in a rural area, and, you can't be sending a nurse to drive 20 miles here and 30 miles there and 40 miles there. And they've got all this, wasted windshield time. With GrandPad and with telehealth, they can have rich, engaging video calls and check in on everyone more often. And then they can say, I can tell Scott's not himself today. He was slurring his words. He looked disheveled. We're going to get a nurse out to see Scott right now. Right. So instead of checking everybody and getting, 90% of the people are fine, we can zero in and get the right care to the right person at the right time. That's a good way to use technology, right? And so we're really focused on lots of things there that we can do to help, leverage the precious caregivers we have, create efficiencies. We all know, the cost of healthcare is through the roof, but improving the quality of care and improving the health and wellness of the seniors. And again, that's why I'll highlight what's going on with our PACE Partners program, all-inclusive care of the elderly. It's amazing the work that they're doing. They have dramatically reduced the death rate during COVID by a better care model. So, technology can help when it's used in the right way.
Yeah, I think, in hospice and end-of-life care, we're all about touch and physical presence and being present for someone. And the pandemic has really challenged hospice and end-of-life professionals because that was very, very much restricted. And it really goes against the grain of who we are and the kind of care we provide. We're all about the hand-holding and the hugging and, we're being present for you there in a space. But learning to leverage technology, I think, is probably going to be one of the biggest lessons that's valuable, something good that has come out of the pandemic for hospice.
Yeah. Because,
I will tell you, my mantra has always been technology never replaces touch. I still think that's true, but I think that we have been forced under horrible circumstances to understand how we can better utilize technology to provide care. And there are a lot of benefits. If it's really about working smarter rather than working harder.
Right.
And there are so many areas of the country. I mean, California is one. There's a staffing crisis for hospice and end-of-life professionals. There just aren't enough people in the industry to manage the work burden that they have.
Right.
So the technology that GrandPad provides would be such a benefit for a hospice agency.
Yeah, totally agree. And again, it's using technology in the right way that's the key. I'll give you an example and I completely agree with your point. We don't want to replace the human connection. That face-to-face, the touch, the hug can't be replaced, and we don't want to. But take in a hospice end-of-life situation. I recently needed to call my healthcare provider just to set up a routine annual checkup. And the VRU, press 1 for this, press 2 for this, like all the hurdles I had to go through. And then that's your date of birth and your customer record. And then, I was on hold for a long time and all this. And, thank goodness it wasn't a critical situation, number one. And next of all, I'm able to navigate all that. But I saw my mom when she was nearing the end of her life trying to navigate the healthcare system. And luckily, me and my wife and family were there to help her. But, when the person is sick and now they're calling and getting frustrated by that and maybe needing an answer, and it's just creating confusion, that, because mind, body, spirit, if you're just like frustrated and give up, you're going to decline worse. So as an example, what we've done with our customer care, we're available 24/7 by 365. Big red help button on the GrandPad, the senior can press. It's built into our companion app. We put our 800 number on every page of our website. You can call us 24 hours a day. A human being will answer 98% of the time in less than 15 seconds. We don't even own one of those stupid press 3 for this, 5 for that. Thanks for calling GrandPad. How can I help? That's it.
Awesome.
And just that, again, it's a simple thing, but it's not, easy to execute on, but it makes a huge difference. So think about a situation where, maybe the senior is nearing the end of the life and the family, some of the family is there gathered, but some of them can't be there. And they're like, hey, we want to do a video call. The brother who lives in Tokyo, Japan can't be here, but he wants to say goodbye to mom. And maybe they're having a struggle, their Wi-Fi or whatever, on GrandPad, we're there. We're going to solve that problem for them right now and make sure that goodbye is able to happen. You're not going to get a message, call us back during normal business hours, the 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time, right? Which is what happens when you call, a lot of service providers in the world. We're there. And I would just encourage, and we use very sophisticated technology to route those calls when you call us to the right person who can handle that. So there's a plethora of sophisticated technology behind the scenes, but you never see it. All you know is you hear is, wow, they were there. They answered the phone and they solved my problem. And honestly, I wish more companies would do that. I mean, we do it for our customers. We're trying to inspire it's just good old fashioned customer service.
Right.
Well, and it's great to have the sophistication. I want the service to be sophisticated,
right,
but I want it to feel as a user. I want my customer experience to be simple.
Right.
Yeah. Call one number, talk to one person, get the information that I need or the fix that I need, and move on from there. Well, obviously, GrandPad has a great mission, and the values that you put into your business as well are evident. Just like this, having that phone available anytime that they need to talk to someone, they're there. Thank you for all that you've put into this. This is amazing, and we again see the power of this technology that you're using, that you have created. And we want our listeners to know that it's available, that you are there, and what a great benefit it is to those who might otherwise feel lonely and isolated. and to have some mental health challenges because of that loneliness and isolation. So we're grateful to GrandPad for what you are doing to bring such a good benefit to our world.
Excellent. I really appreciate the opportunity to share more. And I would just ask everyone that's listening to this just to do this one thing. When you hear this, pick up the phone, or even better, do a video call with the super senior in your life, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, neighbor, and just say hello and ask them how they're doing. If we all did that every day, the world would be a much better place, because when you make that call, you're going to get just as much out of it as they will. And then encourage your kids and your grandkids to do it. That's my ask of everyone.
Super important. Hey, Scott, if our listeners want to connect with GrandPad, look into a subscription and how they can purchase one for someone that they care about and get it started, where can they find information?
Yeah. For all the consumer buyers, if you want to buy it for yourself or for the loved one, come to grandpad.net. And you'll see our 800 number there, or you can call us directly. Again, we're there 24 hours a day, 800-704-9412. We are also now available on Amazon. So if you like to buy stuff on Amazon, you can go to Amazon, click, there it is, delivered. That's the same product from just shipped through Amazon. We now are also available at walgreens.com, online at Walgreens, and walmart.com. So, if any of those you prefer to shop at, you can do those. For all the business healthcare, home care, home health, hospice, PACE providers, hospital systems, you can come to grandpad.biz, B-I-Z, and you'll see our business enterprise offering and ways to get a hold of us there. And there's a lot of unique features that are there to serve any of the, healthcare providers. So we'd love to help and work with you and share more about what we're doing. And one last thing, I would put in a plug for one of our nonprofit partners. It's a fantastic organization called Dreamweaver, weaving dreams, making dreams come true for seniors. You can learn more about them at dreamweaver.org, O-R-G. And what's pretty amazing is they have a program called Connecting Hope. We know sometimes the senior, their family can't afford a GrandPad. Dreamweaver will donate one to people that have a financial need and a healthcare need. So you just go on their website, dreamweaver.org, go to Connecting Hope, and simple just application. They'll get in contact with you, and they can get you a GrandPad. So we want everyone that needs one to have one, because we think it will make a big difference in their life.
I think so. I think that's the key to the whole thing. You guys make such a difference, Scott. We're so grateful that you do.
Thank you. I know you guys are too, and we appreciate this partnership, and thank you for having me on.
It's always better if we let the guests tell their own story.
Isn't it, though? That is very true. And Scott has such a great story to tell, and so many stories to tell. I bet if we really had time to sit down with him, he could tell us so many stories about how GrandPad has benefited people.
Absolutely. I mean, starting with his own mom.
Right.
What did he say? She lived 3,000 miles away.
Right. And so she was really the inspiration for them to create this, because she felt kind of alone, and she tried using technology and it just didn't work for her.
And her hearing impairment made phone communication really difficult.
Yes. And you know how it is. If you can't work something, you can't get it to work like it's supposed to. He says that older people feel like they're the ones that's the problem.
Right. You feel dumb when you can't do stuff like that. I mean,
exactly.
I'm not what did he call him? A super senior?
Right.
But I feel terrible when I can't master something like that. I always feel so stupid.
Yeah. I feel like it's the machine's fault. I never blame myself. It's the machine's fault. What's the matter with this thing anyway?
Oh, I don't have that problem.
But for a lot of older people, trying to use technology can get to be very frustrating. And for many, it feels like they just can't keep up with things. And so with that, is a detriment to their mental health, their confidence that they can still do things like everyone else does. And here's GrandPad, and it's simple, it's easy to use. Your story about your mom and being able to get into the Zoom chat with your family and have that Zoom video chat with them, and then she loses connection and is able to get back
and got
on.
herself right back in.
All by herself.
And she'd never done that before. The only Zoom calls my mom has done with us was when she's been with other members of the family in their houses, like with my brother and his family. So it was really, really neat that my mom could do that. And we were sitting there on the call. And so here's my mom, and then me, and then my daughter, and then her baby. And I told my mom, I said, there's 4 generations on a video call. I think that is just amazing.
It really is.
And she's almost 90 years old.
Right. Here's the other benefit of GrandPad, and that is when you can see someone, you have a better assessment of how they're doing.
Yes, that's true.
So are they getting up and get dressed, or are they in their pajamas?
Right.
Have they been able to take care of themselves? Are they, combing their hair? Or you can see, and you can also see whether they are tired or...
Are they making eye contact? Does it look like they've lost weight? Do they look like maybe they haven't taken care of personal hygiene? And what does the environment around them look like?
Yes, exactly. So having those video chats like that and having them available really can make a difference. So Scott talked about how healthcare providers can use GrandPad as well to see the patient and recognize if the patient's okay.
Yes.
And are there changes that have taken place?
Yes. So one of the features that my mom really likes is the music, because you can select the genre of music that you like. And I asked her a couple of weeks ago, knowing that we were going to be talking with Scott, I said, which one do you like the best? And she said, really, I like all of them, because she has just a wide variety of likes when it comes to music. And so here's the thing about my mom. If you think that, here I am, a podcaster. I've got a smartphone. I've got a computer. I've got a laptop. I work remotely. I've done all these things. For the past, 5 years, I've been working remotely in one form or another. So I'm very tech savvy. At least I think so. My mom at 89 has never owned a computer. She's never owned a tablet device. She does not own a smartphone. The biggest piece of technology I think my mom had was a DVD player that we gave her that she did not use. In fact, she just gave it away because she didn't use it. So now probably the most sophisticated piece of electronics she has is a TV. It's not a smart TV, but anything happens to it and my brother has to come over and take care of it, or talk to the people who will repair it and take care of it. She'll have a digital clock, and she won't reset it when the time changes, because where we live, we do daylight savings time. She won't change that. So for half of the year, it's an hour off.
Well, here's the truth of the matter. She's not the only one like that.
It's true. And sometimes she thinks that she would like to have a smartphone, and we just tell her, no, you're not doing it, because we cannot handle that. It will make her crazy. It'll go back after a few days. It'll go back to the store. The thing about the GrandPad is it's so intuitive. The instructions are explicit. Push this button, touch here, move this way. Here's an arrow. You want to go back to this? Go this way. It's so easy that she doesn't have any trouble managing it. She plays the games on it too. She's never played video games in her life, but she plays solitaire. She plays solitaire on the GrandPad. I mean, it's really pretty remarkable. She was very open to it, but I think it's because we put pictures and videos in it, and I'll call her and say, hey, there are 3 new videos or 3 new pictures in the GrandPad. Why don't you go in and look at them, and we'll talk about them, and I'll tell you what the kids were doing or what the babies were doing. And she loves that. She loves that, but she has no experience, no work experience, no personal experience with any sort of electronic device.
Right. And she's not alone in that. There are a lot of people her age and older, the super seniors that he talks about, who don't have the experience of using technology, but they can use the GrandPad. So we sing the praises of GrandPad.
Oh, obviously.
Not just because they're one of our sponsors, but because we know how useful this is.
Yes.
And it's amazing to have this particular device. It's easy for them to use, and they feel comfortable using it, and it's just wonderful to have that available for them. So we also want to mention to you again that there is a foundation now who is providing a GrandPad free of charge to people who may not be able to afford it, but who could use it. So we'll give you in our show notes a link to that site, and you can go in there, and if you know someone who could really benefit from having a GrandPad, they can't afford it or their family can't afford it, go to that website, check it out, and see what might be possible for them to be able to get a GrandPad. So we're thankful to Scott for his taking the time out to tell us more about GrandPad and the new things that they're doing. And again, we're so grateful to know GrandPad and to know what they can do.
Thanks for listening to The Heart of Hospice. I'm Helen Bauer here with Jerry Finter. Because we know your hospice journey is 24/7, you can always find us at theheartofhospice.com. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, and please take a minute to leave a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts.
To connect with us, just send us an email to host@theheartofhospice.com. You can also find us on social media. And remember, no matter who you are or where you are in your hospice journey, you are the heart of hospice.